And we asked the critical question this morning for our panel of security experts is simple. Why is the highest security spending in Nigerian history failing to buy everyday safety for the Nigerian citizen? Today we start with a look at the true cost of securing the Republic. And we have joining us this morning Yakubu Dati, Chairman, Federal Polytechnic, Ayede, and former Commissioner of Information, Plateau State, joining us from our Abuja studio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And happy Democracy Day.
We're celebrating 27 years of democracy in the country, unbroken democracy. We see it as a milestone. But we're talking about the cost of securing the Republic. What are your thoughts about the recent happenings in the country? I say recent, but it's not really strange. It's just that what is happening now, the banditry and kidnappings are entering new territory. We've had them in the past in other parts of the country. So what do you think about, the cost of securing the Nigerian Republic? At what cost do we have this republic? Mr. Dati.
Thank you very much, Joke Yomi, for this opportunity. I think the cost must also be looked at with the benefits and milestones that have been achieved so far. You recall that there was a time in this country where flags of terrorists were hoisted in certain local governments in the country. But today, not one is being hoisted, and that goes to credit to the this administration for ensuring that they put the money where the action is. And I must also commend Mr. President for this inspiring Democracy Day speech, where he emphasized the bond, or the responsibility of this generation. Like he said, every generation has a responsibility. The founding fathers had a responsibility to bring independence. The June 12th generation had a responsibility to enthrone democracy, and this generation has a responsibility to move on prosperity. And so much is going on, and we are happy with the Supreme Court judgment empowering the 774 local governments to get direct funding. That in itself is an achievement, because the local governments have councillors, and we are beginning to see, hoping that the developments will go deep down into the local government, into the wards where these issues matter most. So I believe that a lot has been going on. A lot of the insurgents have been degraded. A lot have been exterminated. And the security forces are making progress in spite of the toll of the heavy prices they are paying. In fact, you need to know what is happening, especially with our security men who have lost their lives, how their families are faring. These are people that have paid supreme price for the growth and strength and progress of this country. And I'd like to also add that we have winning stories like Plateau State, where Governor Mutfwang has instituted what you call the state police, in the the name of Operation Rainbow. So I want to take this opportunity also to thank the National Assembly for passing the police bill, and gradually I believe that there are also structures on ground like Operation Rainbow that exists in Plateau will transmute into the state police, and that will strengthen local vigilance, and that will strengthen local first respondents at the local government level, at the ward level. And by the time we empower these local governments to have direct funding, we'll be able to checkmate, because it's at that level. You have the grassroots, you have the councillors, you have the chairmen, you have the traditional rulers, and by the time you empower them, they will be able to know the strange faces that are coming into their communities, and also contribute to ensuring that we govern the so-called ungoverned space.
Mr. Dati, you had mentioned earlier about the House of Representatives passing the state police, while, of course, the Senate has referred it to its Constitution Review Committee, the proposal. Some people have their fears. Of course, there is the advantage or advantages and disadvantages of having state police. One of the disadvantages that people are talking about is the fact that some governors may use this or weaponize this against voices that are against them. How do you think, while all of this debate is going on, how do you think, or some of the things that should be in that bill that we are hoping it will come to be law, what do you think should be there to ensure that some of the excesses that could come from, misuse or weaponization of that state police, they are addressed?
Well, thank you very much, Yomi. First and foremost, like I said, I need to commend the National Assembly for the bill, especially which was initiated by Mr. President himself to see to the birth of the state police. In practice, most of the states, who are the ones that control even the police in the states? They're usually the chief security officers, who are the governors. But what the state police does is that it now reduces the command structure and time for response. Instead of waiting for the final clearance from the high command, the governor is there, he's there on the seat. He can easily reach out to the commissioner of police in the state and ensure that certain actions are taken. It's also very important as we carry out this discussion to note that what gives oxygen to these insurgents is the publicity they get. And that is why they look for soft targets that will give them maximal publicity. They look for school children. The other day they picked the PRO, a retired general of the Nigerian Armed Forces. They are looking at soft targets that will give them maximal security. So as much as we discuss what the insurgents that are happening, we should also be celebrating the success stories. Yesterday I just read in the papers how catch of arms and ammunition were seized from insurgents in one of the states in the southeast. We are also hearing stories of reintegration in Borno State, about 720 and about more than 1,000 of their spouses. There are success stories that we need to highlight, and we need to also reduce the publicity we give these insurgents, because that's the oxygen that drives these insurgents. Most of the states, who are the ones that control even the police in the states? They're usually the chief security officers, who are the governors. But what the state police does is that it now reduces the command structure and time for response. Instead of waiting for the final clearance from the high command, the governor is there, he's there on the seat. He can easily reach out to the commissioner of police in the state and ensure that certain actions are taken. It's also very important as we carry out this discussion to note that what gives oxygen to these insurgents is the publicity they get. And that is why they look for soft targets that will give them maximal publicity. They look for school children. The other day they picked the PRO, a retired general of the Nigerian Armed Forces. They are looking at soft targets that will give them maximal security. So as much as we discuss what the insurgents that are happening, we should also be celebrating the success stories. Yesterday I just read in the papers how catch of arms and ammunition were seized from insurgents in one of the states in the southeast. We are also hearing stories of reintegration in Borno State, about 720 and about more than 1,000 of their spouses. There are success stories that we need to highlight, and we need to also reduce the publicity we give these insurgents, because that's the oxygen that drives these insurgents. And in all intents and purposes, apart from the cost, the money that has been deployed to security, what is also very, very key is the attempt by Mr. President to ensure that the local governments who have received nothing less than 20 billion in the past 3 years are also allowed to have access to their funding. And that itself will ensure that the money trickles down and every community has its own peculiarities. And by the time you strengthen that, you are also going to have a broader focus in terms of peculiarities in the local government areas. I also want to also state the efforts by the government in the area of forest guards. We know quite a number have been trained, and quite, the communities need to feed them, because those are the first respondents in each of the communities. And these are the forces that are trained specifically to go into the ungoverned spaces, which are the forests. And most of these people are people from those localities. So they will be able to add to the architecture of the security in those local areas. Don't forget that every crime is localized to the area it has. And first responders are based in the locality. They exist. And that is why it's important that we should be able to have security presence in the 774 local governments, such that when people come on motorbikes, they cannot have free access and operate for hours without any resistance from the community. But the communities need to be funded. They need to be supported. And that is where the issue of ensuring the autonomy of the 774 local government areas in Nigeria is very key and important in adding to the security infrastructure in the country.
Your final take on that same matter, you know, Nigerians taking giveaways, monies from bandits. Some Nigerians.
That question. It's also important to state and commend the security forces, especially the DSS. Of recent, one of the bandits that will be flaunting on this TikTok has been arrested. Somebody named Yellow. I remember, but sometimes I wonder why some of these success stories do not get the kind of airtime that we give to activities of bandits. So there's a lot going on, and the security agencies are also on their trail and arresting them on a daily basis. Most also importantly is that, like I always commend the issue of the state police, the governors have the control of the local governments. The local government, in each local government you have 10 to 15 councillors who also are situated from their wards. You have supervisory council. I'm saying that because I've been a local government chairman. So averagely, you are talking about a structure in the local government that will bring in about 15,000 communities. So by the time you bring in this pool of people into the vision of the president that has to do with the forest guards, which involves getting people from the community, training them, you know, irrespective the youths, the native doctors, the babalawos, whatever they are. By the time they come and they are trained, you now cut down the problem that we have with these insurgents, which has to do with response time. So you don't have to call the command structure to send people. You already have people in the community who are trained, who can be the first responders and who can respond. And that is why I believe that the opportunity for the state police is an opportunity for the governors to begin to ensure that they trickle down the issue of recruitment into each and every ward in the local government, so that there is always a security man resident there, trained, that will provide the first response in terms of attack, instead of waiting for the command structure to call, and then they have to take permission. By the time they arrive, 3-4 hours, you have people on motorcycles loading children on motorcycles and taking off without any resistance. So those are also opportunities, and I'm happy that we have a good working model in Plateau State, where Governor Mutfang has empowered Operation Rainbow under retired General Shipi, and we are beginning to see such actions that are taking place where their recruitment is going deep into the local government. And I also want to state that the efforts by the National Security Advisor, No Ribadu, in training these forest guards needs to be improved upon, in such that the communities and the idea should not only, the training should not only be there, but it should be deployed to their communities, so that they become the first respondents in those communities, right, that they will be empowered. And when the governors are there, they have the chairman, they know where it's leaking. They live in the house, so they know where it's leaking.
Right, right.
We have a situation in Plateau where even a community that is bordering the military barracks were attacked, but the military could not respond because of the command structure.
Right.
In such a situation, the governor can easily say, look, the governor can easily call the chairman, what do you want, and he deploys immediately.
Right.
And you have already cells of security people in each of the communities that can be reactivated and respond immediately.
Right. I must thank you. We've completely run out of time, but thank you really for those thoughts, robust conversation this morning.